Everybody, it's the Drive to School Summer School Edition. Michelle Bauman, the director of Y for Life, is back with me. I'm Pastor Goodman. And since Michelle is the director of Y for Life, and there's been a pretty monumental court decision, Roe versus Wade has been overturned. But I think there's still a lot of confusion over just what this means and what this doesn't mean. Michelle, can we kind of clear the air? First of all, what actually happened?
Yeah, definitely. So thanks again for inviting me back on. It is kind of an exciting time and also a fearful time for a lot of people. So it's good to know the facts, right? So the Dobbs case, the results were exactly as we anticipated. What the leak had indicated, that there was going to be a ruling that would overturn Roe v. Wade. And that was the hope. And indeed, there was a 6-3 ruling that ended up being quite a large ruling in favor of Dobbs. And so what happened is the Supreme Court said there is no right to an abortion in the Constitution of the United States. It's not implied. There is no right. And so therefore, we should not be making a ruling that says abortion is legal nationwide. So what they did is they sent that back to the states and said, it's really up to your representatives, to the people and the representatives that they elect to make those decisions for their communities and for their states. So it did not make abortion illegal. What it did was turn it back over to the states, and the states can now decide if they would like to make abortion illegal, if they want to make abortion legal all through 9 months, or if there are going to be some stipulations, what those stipulations are, right? For example, the reason this came about is because of the Mississippi bill that said, no, you can't have abortions after 15 weeks. And so that was challenged, and the court ruled in favor and overturned the lesser court's decision to ban or to hold the law. So,
all right. Yeah. So yeah, it's not either extreme that I keep hearing on the internet, that either we live in a dystopian novel where women are subjected to being baby farms, or that all of the problems are now solved. And I know that part's not true, just because everybody's so mad on the internet right now. Like, both sides are really just sort of like throwing rocks at each other. And it's one of those places where, I mean, like, a trip back to kindergarten doesn't seem inappropriate. But how can we actually talk about this in a loving way, recognizing that, I mean, it's not just an issue of right and wrong, but it's an issue where people are truly and deeply emotionally invested. Right. How can we start to address people, not only in terms of what is true, but also in terms of what is helpful?
Yeah, and I think that you just hit on something really important. What's helpful versus what's true. Certainly, we don't want to compromise the truth, but the way in which we speak truth is very, very important, right? The way we speak truth with compassion, we speak truth to build relationships and to uphold lives rather than to destroy them. And so the words we choose and the actions that we use are very, very important. It probably isn't always a great, social media isn't necessarily the best place to have the conversation. Though there can be moments when, you know, some truth can be shared with kindness and response. So some basic, like a basic acronym I use when I talk to students about how to have a for-life discussion that respects the other individual that you're having the discussion with is to use the acronym Calvary. And just to kind of go through that, Calvary, the C in Calvary, that means connect, or it stands for the idea of connecting with someone. So we need to know foundationally that when we care about someone, we build a relationship with them, right? And if this truth is important and we want to address the truth, it's less likely that we're going to have someone change their mind based on our argument if we have no connection or relationship with them. It's much more successful that we can uphold life if we actually have a relationship with that person. So what is the connection? And and it's okay to put arguments out there, or to have, just some logical conversations, because other people are watching, and maybe that will be influential. But the most important thing is to win the person, not the argument. So we need to connect with them. Then if we move down Calvary, the next letter is A. So ask. So maybe I have a connection with someone online or in person, and they're really upset about what happened with Dobbs. Ask why. Ask the question, what makes you upset? And then L, listen.
Yeah.
Like, actually listen for what it is that they're afraid of. What's making them upset? What are they concerned about? Maybe there's some really good concerns. Maybe they really believe that women will have a much harder time after this, right? That they will be devalued by this. And that at its root is not a bad concern, right? We want to uphold the lives of women. We want to care about women. We want them to be supported and not abused or misused. And so that's where you can kind of make some connections. So again, connect, then ask, then listen. The next letter is verify, or V for verify. So as you're listening and you think you hear what the concern is, verify that. So what I hear you saying is that you're really worried about whether or not women will be in bad situations, or I'm hearing you say that you're afraid a woman with an ectopic pregnancy will not be able to have that baby removed. Is that right? Like, am I hearing you correctly? Verify it. And then when you have heard someone correctly, then you affirm. Okay, so you affirm what you can affirm without compromising the truth. So you affirm the care for the woman. You affirm the idea that, yes, you're right, that would be a very dangerous situation for a woman to be in if we couldn't help that baby be removed from the fallopian tube, right? We want to affirm the things that are good and godly. And then we want to respond. Okay, so Calvary, affirm. R is respond. And so we respond with the truth. So here's the truth. An ectopic pregnancy isn't considered an abortion. The difference between those two surgeries is that in that ectopic pregnancy, it's a removal of a life, but it's not the destruction of a life. And it's very often that life actually has already died. And so in order to save the woman, you are removing the baby that has implanted there, right? If we had the capability of then planting that, repositioning that baby in the womb, that's what would happen, right? The intention is not to kill, but it is to save life. So again, we respond. And then Y stands for yoke. So that's kind of like one of those images that we see a lot in the Bible, this yoking of people together, right? Like two oxen. But as Christians, we are then yoked to each other. And when God places someone in our life, when he places someone in our direct path that we are given the opportunity to care for and uphold, we're now yoked to that person. We get the opportunity to follow up with them and to continue to care for them and to walk beside them and help maybe ease those fears and worries. So that's kind of the approach I hope to help students use as they talk with each other.
I really love that, because it actually it attempts to actually love our neighbors even on the other side of this discussion. Let's maybe, just for the sake of practice, how do you feel about modeling one?
Yeah, sure.
So it gives me a chance to ask a hard question to you and have you respond in a good way. One of the big criticisms that I've heard from this now is, well, so you care for abortion, but you don't care for women, and you also don't care about the baby after it's born. So what do we do then for all of these women who are now in dire financial straits, and all of these children who will be raised in abject poverty and quite frankly unloved? If you actually cared about life, why would you want that?
Yeah. Well, again, great questions. And there's a lot of questions there. You're raising a lot of issues. So I just want to make sure that I understand the issue that you're most concerned about. And what I'm hearing is that maybe you're most concerned about the child after the child is born.
Yeah.
And why is it that we care about a child before the child's born, but we don't seem to care about a child after the child's born? Is that right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Okay, so I'm so glad you asked that question, because I agree. I agree that we should not only care for that child before that child's born, but we should continue to care for that child after the child's born. And there's lots of ways that we can do that. One of those ways is in person, right? So when we know someone who has had an unexpected pregnancy, and that woman continues to carry the baby and gives birth, we want to support her all through that pregnancy, but also afterwards to provide the things she needs, whether those are diapers or formula, or maybe other financial needs, or maybe it's doing some free babysitting for her as she pursues school, or as she goes to work. Maybe it's helping her find the doctor. Maybe it's going to doctor appointments with her, or checking in with her. So I agree completely. We as for life people need to be upholding the life afterwards. And actually we do. I don't know if you know, but most of the pregnancy care centers will continue to serve women and their children up to like age 3 to 5.
Oh, wow.
So that's a significant gift and support of their life. We're also seeing family centers built up around America. So for every one abortion clinic, there are four clinics that are pregnancy resource centers that serve women not only before they have their baby, but also after they have their baby.
Wow, that was wonderful. So, I mean, it's actually, I mean, not just a good model of a discussion, but I think it's a highlight of a point. As much as we want God to just sort of wave a wand over our broken and sinful world and make it not broken or sinful anymore, that'll be the last day. But until then, we get to deal with each other. And that means we love our neighbors who happen to be sinners and who happen to be sinned against. We do this in light of the gospel. Jesus died for all life. And that includes not only the children, but also the mothers on both sides of this discussion. And so as we sort of seek to continue this, let's actually let the gospel rule this discussion, as if Christ has actually conquered death, and as if the things that we have left to play out are just the aftershocks of that great battle. There's a lot of work to do, and there's a lot of people to love in the meanwhile. But let's spend our days then actually working to like you said, yoke ourselves to our neighbor.
Yeah, absolutely. And our neighbor is not just the mother with the unplanned pregnancy or the surprise pregnancy, but it's also the person on social media who does not agree with us, right? Sometimes when I catch myself feeling kind of, start to get a little angry about the misinformation that's out there, I have to remind myself that this person too is a person that God created and Jesus loves, Jesus redeemed, right? And so even in my conversations with them, even in my interactions with them, I remember God loves this person, right? And so that, I think, kind of helps reorganize or reorient my view and the way I want to speak to this individual, right? Because this individual is a created being, whether he or she knows it or not. And so, yeah, it should shape how we uphold life and how we talk about life.
That's so great. So we've kind of got an approach now. As far as resources, can you point us towards any resources that would sort of help us with some of the facts that we'll need in these times?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so important to be educated and to know. So online, I would definitely encourage you to go to the SCOTUS blog page and see what Dobbs actually is about. I mean, there's a whole document you can download, a PDF, and start on page 8. that's where it gets good. But until then, there's some other resources. So we have some brochures on the Y for Life website, and I think you'll put a link for everybody, but just a
Absolutely.
quick brochure on how to have a charitable conversation. It's not very long. There's lots of good information and ideas, but we also have brochures on like the health risks of abortion, facts, abortion fast facts, how abortion and race kind of are connected, in fact, more than kind of. So I think it's important to be ready to speak the truth and to share the facts with individuals who may not know them. So yes, definitely, lots of opportunities.
Those up in the descriptions. Michelle, I imagine that we're going to be talking more because we're not done yet, but thanks so much for joining us. Drive to school today.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.